So great. Okay, so today I want to jump in. Obviously, I'm Lo. This is my friend Joe, and we could have a cool band name with that. I think we both
Jolo.
have Jolo. We both have some whiskey. So cheers to you.
Cheers.
If anyone else wants to join, please feel free. But today we're going to talk about how to get out of a rut, how do you know you're in a rut, and just some things around awareness. And it was really cool when we were talking about this because we kind of reminisced on a time when you and I sat down. I think it was like 2.5, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I just need to like brainstorm some ideas.
That was a cool day. I still have the notes that we journaled that I look back on to that day. And I think I shared it with you. So at that time I was in a huge rut and I didn't even realize it. So I was in a corporate job, right? I worked corporate sales and it was a fine job. I had really no complaints with it per se. It just didn't feel right to me. And a lot of things changed for many reasons. I had some things happen in my life that made me think about this more. But I was like, I need to be doing something else. And I didn't know what it was. So I remember reaching out to you and to Wes to just sit down and brainstorm on this stuff. And to be quite honest, I was terrified. I remember being terrified about the whole process. Like, I'm going to have to, I want to do all these things, which we wrote down things like, I want to be one of the top fitness professionals in the world. I want to be a model and I want to travel internationally doing so. I want to somehow be like a health coach and a speaker for people. And here I am, I'm doing corporate sales, this kid who's done none of these things.
But at the time, I mean, for reference for people, you were modeling a little bit.
A little bit on the side, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here and there. There was nothing big though. So I had kind of a gateway into it where I got exposed to this world. And at the time, all of this was just things that were interesting to me. So I remember I was taking some acting classes because I just enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to do acting. I got certified as a trainer because I loved fitness. I didn't think I was going to be a trainer. I was working out a ton and learning about it because I simply loved it. But I didn't think that any of these things could be a career because it wasn't like me applying for a job. Like I was in a sales role and I could just go on LinkedIn and be like, oh, here's the job, here's the salary, so I can improve my life this way. But this world was so unknown to me with building a brand, being your own kind of business. Like, how do you do that? How can you even create that? I had no idea, no starting point whatsoever. So it was all very scary at the time.
Yeah, no. And it was very much you weren't like, oh, I just want to transition to this career. It was truly, I want to be able to do all these things. And there wasn't a roadmap. Like I think a lot of people, there are a lot of roadmaps out there for whatever it is you want to do. And something I wrote in the email that I sent out to folks that are on the webinar, I was like, I kind of summarized this story for them. And I was like, the moral of the story is not to quit your corporate job and become a model.
No,
that's not what we're talking about here. So I want to be really clear about that. That's Joe's dream and Joe's journey.
Yeah.
It's going to help you figure out what's right for you. But by no means are we saying that. And I also just want to mention, if you guys have comments, questions, please drop them in. We're going to kind of go through a flow. And if something doesn't make sense, let us know, but we'll also have a Q&A at the end. So drop them in whenever you feel like. If we don't hit it when we're talking about it, we'll come back to it. But I absolutely love that you shared this. And what was so funny is when we talked, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday this past week, we're like, holy crap, you've actually done a lot of this, which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been the nuttiest ride of my life. And I want people to understand too, like this, to going back to what you said, this was more about identifying like my own path. It was about like aligning things that I just cared about. Like that's at the long and short of it is I was in a job and in a career path that I didn't feel authentic in. All of it was good. I was making, I'm making fine money. I had a good life. I lived in a great city. I had good friends, a good place. There was nothing to complain about. You just feel in something internally that you're like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like you want to be challenged in some sort of way. You only know that there's something more that you want to give to the world and you want a way to share it. And you just have to find your vessel. And like, it's fun. This is hilarious timing. Roger Rojas just joined, and I had him on the podcast. We're going to release his episode. He talked about how photography for him is his vessel. And it's how you can speak to people and connect with people and share a part of you to get and build relationships. And that was what this was about to me. I was at a sales job where I didn't feel like I could connect with people. I didn't feel like I had something to offer people. And this whole journey that we went on, that I'm sure we're going to dive into, where I'm at now as a fitness professional, I am so happy and fulfilled because I'm able to give back to people, like in my way, and the things that bring me so much joy. I am now in a spot that I can meet you and say, I can literally help you. Why don't you come by my studio? I'm going to train you. I know that I can give you a great experience. Like, I have something to give you now that's my own.
That's so amazing. And it feels, because you could do your job before.
Sure.
And you were good at it.
I was good at it, yeah.
It wasn't, I think the difference is this feels like it lights you up inside. This feels good when you're doing it. And I think that's so important. And something you said a couple minutes ago, I want to touch on, because I think it'll help us dive into this, how to get out of a rut, or how to even know you're in a rut, is at the time you were like, everything's fine. Like, yeah, I'd like to do a little more acting, and there's other things I'd like to do, but it wasn't like, oh, my life's miserable. Now, at the same time, there might be some people on this call or watching this recording who are like, no, I hate my life and I need to make a change.
Sure.
And that is okay too, because it doesn't matter where you are. It's being how aware of you are where you are in this moment, and figuring out, and you and I talked about this the other day, figuring out, is this just like one bad day? Or is this a trend? Is this happening over a longer period of time? Is this, and what do you want to do about it? And you said manage the trend. I love that, manage the trend. And so I think the first piece is getting curious about where you're at, what's not vibing with you? What are you not excited about? And then from there, I like to tell people, think about, what does light you up? What do you get super excited about? Let's chase that. Let's get a little bit more curious about that.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Like, looking back on all these things that I'm doing now, they stem from a natural curiosity of things that I just love to do, right? So at the time, you're like, man, this hobby that I have, right, which for me is fitness. I'm obsessed with training, but I have been forever, right? Like, I'm living in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's 4th of July. People are going at the pool. I literally told my friends, I have to go work out. I will join you afterwards, but I need to get it in right now, right? So I love that process, right? So, but listen, the advice that you have to understand is, like you said, to recognize you're in a rut. Like, the self-awareness, I don't know how you generate that, but manage the trend, not the one moment. My brother and I say this all the time. So you're going to have a bad day. I have bad days now. I'm in a great situation that I want to be in. I'm choosing to be here. I'm still going to have bad days, right? So we have to level the expectations that Bill Gates has bad days. Elon Musk has bad days. They are not happy all the time, right? You can be filthy rich and you're still going to be sad, unhappy, unfulfilled moments. But it doesn't mean that every day when you wake up sad or tired that you question all of your life choices and go, let me quit my job and change shit.
Yes. Because that's not going to lead to happiness unless you discover what you're passionate about, and just changing, and then you're just going to keep churning, right? You're just going to churn and burn.
So then you never solve anything. So you have to have this understanding that the struggle and conflict and having an adversary is what you need that shit. Here's the difference. In my old job, I felt like it wasn't my choice to be there. I felt like I was doing a career that I was supposed to be doing. It wasn't my conscious choice. I had grown up into this environment that told me this type of job is what you want. It will make you happy. This is what you should be doing. So you're going to have problems anyways, right? So let's all agree that in a dream job or in a job you hate, you're going to have problems to solve, right? Problems exist forever. So the difference was, now I'm in a seat that I want to be in. So I still have challenges and problems, but I am more optimistic in chasing them and in solving them here because they're my own. Like I chose to be here, like let me solve this problem, versus I'm in a position I don't want to be in, and now you're also telling me I have to solve this problem that I have no interest in solving. So that's
I love it's like problems like just like a pile of shit of problems being like dumped on you versus like I'm choosing these problems to have.
Right.
There's a question I would like to hear more about Joe's process. Can you be a little bit more specific about what you mean? His process for how he started to make the transition, like, you know, how he made the transition from Charlotte to, you know, he's in New York now, how he got there. I'm curious about that. But no, I love this. And you said, I'm not sure how you find that awareness. I want to give people some tools. So I talked about this last week with Brian, shout out Brian. To become aware is that reflection time. So it's journaling at the end of the day. What are three things I loved about today? What are three things I didn't like? What are three things I could have done better? So it's really starting to check in with yourself so that you start to notice habits and trends. And then you can say, okay, well, I really like, you know, these 5 things I really like a lot, but these things I don't like at all. Right. And like you said, there's always going to be stuff that we have to do no matter what job we're doing. If it's a job we love, if it's a job you hate, there's always stuff you're not going to want to do. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the larger stuff. Like if most of your job you don't like doing and you're frustrated with, then that's where to make a change. Okay, so the question is, so can you just explain the transition that you made from corporate job to now being a head coach at Tone House and IMG Model?
Yeah, it was not a smooth transition. So I'll kind of share what, and so first of all,
make it sound really smooth.
I'm sure I can make it sound that way. It was very hard and challenging, but it was my journey. So I've had a lot of fun with this. So let me say, first of all, that I did not necessarily write specifically that I was going to be a coach at Tone House or signed with IMG. These were not specific things that I had.
Or even live in New York.
Or live in New York. This was, no, it was not. It was not. I had different goals. So go back to, I'm 20, let's say 28, 29, something like that. I'm in this corporate job. I was very scared. I was super afraid. But here's what I started to kind of figure out. I had these goals that were not my own. I had goals that were like always tied to the corporation, and they didn't excite me anymore. I started to get like very bored. And so for whatever reason, I didn't share these goals, but how it started was I was writing down goals of things that just excited me. It was literally, I shared this with Lo. I was like, I want to be the first American James Bond by 2025. I want to be like the top fitness model in the world. I want to be like a public speaker, like give a TED talk on like how we can change the fitness industry. All of these things were outrageous. They're outrageous. I was like, I want to be in a blockbuster film by the time I'm like 38. Like all of this stuff's outrageous because I had not been doing it. But here's the deal. I didn't care. I didn't share it. They lit a fire under me to begin a process. Yep. The first transition is straight curiosity. So once I found the courage to leave the corporate job, which fully stemmed from I was more scared to not go after what I wanted to and have regret of not doing it and not knowing rather than staying in the job. That's number one. Yeah. I started to get so painful staying in versus exploring. Mm-hmm. I moved to South.
That's when people make changes, by the way. Like I just want to touch on that point. You will make a change when you feel like the effort and the uncertainty on the other side is less scary than staying where you're at. Yes. That's when you'll make a change. And it's all in your perspective. So if you think like, oh my God, this is going to be like, if you're here and then you're looking at this thing over here, like this is going to be so scary and so hard and I don't know how I'm going to do it. Of course you're not going to make the change. But if you're like, that looks interesting, I could try that out.
So embrace the discomfort.
Yes. And also change your mindset of like, this isn't going to be that hard. Like I can always go back to X or something like X. Like that's what I have told myself through a couple of different jobs and transitions that I've had. I'm like, look, this doesn't work. I'll just go back to doing something like this.
It's going to exist always. These jobs exist always. So
So sorry, your transition.
No, I got more lit up. Look, design your own life.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down, what car do you want? Does it matter to you? What kind of place do you want to live? What do you pursue? How do you get back to people?
Mm-hmm.
Just design it consciously. And then I got excited of like, all right, well, this is, how do I want to spend my time? Well, I personally love fitness this much. How can I integrate it into my life? Do you want to share that with people? Okay, how are you going to share it with people? Do you like to travel? Oh, you do like to travel. Well, how are you going to get paid to travel?
Mm-hmm.
I just started to solve the problem based on things I wanted to experience. And then also the person that you want to grow into. You have to have a North Star first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can define habits and strategies to get there. Right?
Yes.
But if you don't know, like, shit isn't going to get done. Like, you have got to have an idea of what you want first.
I completely agree with that. I think that's why, I wanted to bring this up for people who are very unclear about this. We don't have time to like dig into that today because that's like a whole nother topic, but I do have a workbook on that. So if you want it, just hit me up afterwards and I'll send it to you. But it essentially is like dreaming big in all these different areas of your life that kind of is like, okay, if your life was a 10 ideal world, what would you want to look like so you can start moving there? And then it's just like taking steps in that direction. And if that is not where you end up, that is okay. Yeah, another thing I think is really helpful is who is my highest self? Like imagining your highest self right now or in the future, and how would you show up, or how would I show up in this moment?
Well, that's exactly where I started, because you create, like I literally created this person that I wanted to become. Mm-hmm. And to me, like I spoke about this at an event with Lululemon. Like I was like, I created this person that felt so real to me that I had to bring him to life. Mm-hmm. So if you can create this version of yourself that is so real and compelling to you, it's like you'll say no to all the other distractions in your life and you get focused. Yes. The thing is, you have to let go of how it comes to be. Be open to the opportunities that flow your way. Don't worry about the timing of when it's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen. Like, let go of those things. You just have a vision for yourself and then you're fluid with it. So like I moved to South Africa as this kid that's never lived abroad, completely scared out of his mind. I've never been away from home, never away from the US. And that was a period of exploration for me where like I literally gave myself 6 months of, look, I don't know if everybody can do this, but I had the luxury at the time of being like, I don't have a job. I have no bills to pay. I was able to go away and like just be myself. And I explored everything. I took yoga classes. I got rid of fitness for a little while. I was like, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to work right now. I'm not going to respond to phone calls. I'm just going to go talk to as many people as I can, see as many things that I can, see sunsets and sunrises and hike and all that good stuff. And by the end of the trip, the last like 2 months, what happened was these things started to connect that brought me back into the fitness space. Naturally, I just fell into these gyms and started to fall in love with like, I was like talking to these owners. I was like, how did you do this? Like, why are you talking to these people? What's your demographic? What's your vision? I was just naturally freaking curious. Yeah. And, you know, me moving to New York was more of a process of continuing to follow my gut, that when I got back from South Africa, I just didn't want to go back to the way things were. I was like, mm-hmm. I can still, let's just play my hand in New York and see what happens. I submitted to agencies. I mm-hmm. was fortunate enough to get signed by one. Not the one I'm with today. I was just mm-hmm. fortunate enough to sign with one. And I was like, well, then this is the universe to me saying, let's continue the momentum. And I'll continue this momentum. It led me to Tone House through a connection. But believe me that it did not fall in my lap.
No, that's everything though. That's connections. That's your network. That's what you'd been doing, but then you really broadened that when you went to South Africa. And yeah. you were doing some modeling stuff at the time there.
Oh, in South Africa? Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Like you weren't just totally not working. So there was
but it was just very relaxed. Yeah.
Right.
Just able to get in touch. Yeah.
But I think that space allowed you to explore, build your network, start to connect with different people that you weren't necessarily connected with before. Mm-hmm. Not to say you couldn't have done it in Charlotte, people. We're not saying you need to move to another country. You can't right now, but sorry, but sometime you can in the future, but you can do that within your own city. It's just dropping the kind of habits and expectations you have of yourself and allowing for new stuff to come in.
Yeah. You just have to have the vision alone. But going back to being in that rut that I was in before leaving.
Yes.
I've been reflecting on it. I think that there's a lot of people that sit in a space that maybe, a job's an easy example, maybe a relationship too. It just feels like you're not supposed to be there. And let's say you are in a true rut. You've been in it for 3 months. Here's the mistake that most people make. They distract themselves and don't let themselves feel what a rut is. So what I mean by that is they go to an addiction or something, and I'm guilty of it too. We're all human beings, right? But it's just, all right, I don't like my job. So you come home and instead of sitting with that, you go play a video game, or you go to the movies, or you go out and drink too much on the weekends, or you indulge in other behavior that distracts you from actually feeling discomfort in your situation. Because I promise you, like, I do it too, but I've just had the self-awareness to understand over time that if I can have this healthy relationship with that discomfort, that over time, of course, I'm going to want to change my situation because it feels so uncomfortable being here. So now a rut becomes something so useful, and it becomes like lighter fluid because it's like, I don't like where I live. When you're conscious about your shit, and you sit in your life that you don't like, you will make changes to it. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to start the momentum and the process to make the change. But if you never feel that, if you continue to give into distraction, well, then you're allowing pleasure in other areas that never allow you to address it.
But it's so short term. Like, those distractions really are short term, and they're not going to help you move forward in a positive way. And if you think about, do I want my life today to be the same as in 3 years? And if the answer is no, that's when it's time to take a step back, and I don't think at really any time your answer should be yes. I mean, maybe your life's awesome already. I don't know. But I went to one of the coolest things I've heard, I'll say this year, because it is probably one of the coolest things I've heard. I went to the Oprah's 2020 summit, or 2020 vision. And she was like, I don't care who you are, even me, like, every single person can improve at any time.
All the time.
So if you're not working towards something, then you are going to fall into a rut. If you're just allowing, the same day-to-day motions and habits kind of go through. And we even talked about our personal routines. Like, I feel like I have to change even though it's healthy and positive and all that stuff, I feel like I have to change that every few months just to keep myself on my toes. Yeah,
because you probably do. Like, there needs to be growth within it. Like, anytime that I face that too, and there's training principles that align with this. Like, in training, we call it the plateau effect, right? You've been doing something for so long that your body gets so used to it that now you're not challenged, you're not growing. So when you face that, it's the same thing mentally. You're like, I've been doing the same thing. I've kind of maybe dominated this area. You've mastered a certain thing, so you're not growing anymore. Yeah. And so of course you're bored. And it's like, you got to change some stuff up sometimes to elevate and like create an adversary and a new challenge for yourself, right? Like, there's got to be it's exciting. I want to be challenged. I want to fail, because that is like where all the growth is. Like, I got to be scared about something. Like, every time with training, we're doing some new stuff now. Like, we're doing online training. Like, the first time I was scared because this is like new to me, right? I'm in classes in person, and that used to scare me. And now it's like, all right, well, I've been doing that so long now. But then, here's a new thing, and it's going to offer a new challenge. So it's exciting. Like, you got to embrace it.
And I think that's, I love the challenge. Like, whenever you come up against a challenge or a wall or a rut, that's actually a great time, because that means you get to change something to push through. And that's why I think we both mentioned this when we were promoting tonight. Being in a rut is not a bad thing. It's actually great.
It's not.
That's where, if you take action from it, that's where then you can shift and just kind of start working and getting to a whole different level. So I think there's so much power in recognizing that you are in one, and also, like, having that, like being a little bit scared is a good thing. If you're not a little scared, it's like you haven't changed enough. You need a bigger challenge. And I love one of the things that you said, you're like, I'm just kind of feeling uninspired. This is recently, like in your life right now, this is current. I'm feeling uninspired, and so I decided I'm just going to win this competition. Can you just tell people?
Oh, yeah. So I know it might sound weird. All right. So with my own training routine, like you got to keep in mind, like I'm training on a daily basis. Like my whole entire job is to train people and to train clients and to lead workouts and take them. And Tone House is such an intense workout. I mean, we train like we train like professional athletes on a daily basis. So for the past like year and a half, 2 years, we've been training at this high level. And
I came in hard. It's so
a tough
hard,
workout.
By the way, for everyone that if you've not done it, I know you have a lot of your people on, but it was hard.
It's a tough one. It's a mentally challenging as equally as it is physically. And look, during the quarantine, I got uninspired, right? I'm getting uninspired even my training routine. I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. I train for other people. Like I literally stay in great shape to inspire other people. Like it's more about them than it is about me.
But it's a lifestyle.
I was like,
it's a lifestyle.
For sure. Like when I stop it, like generally I miss it, right? But I was like, how can I get reinvigorated? And I just wrote down, like I have to keep goals pretty big. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to win this. I'm just going to win the High Rocks competition. Like, let's just do it. Cause like me saying I'm going to train for High Rocks or I'm going to finish High Rocks. It's like boring. I'm like, no, you know what? I want to kick my ass because if I put a declaration of myself of I'm going to win this thing, well then to myself, like I don't have to, I mean, I guess I told it to people here, but if I tell it to myself, like I have to hold myself to that standard. So now when I'm in the gym and training, I'm going to push harder when I want to quit. When I'm tired, I'm going to go next level, right? You don't give up on yourself. But if I don't have that, then I'm like, all right, now then the motion is enough. Like I went to the gym, I did it. It's good. But when you have that thing, now it's like, not only am I there, but I have to perform well there and to my best ability there.
Yes.
So you maximize it.
And I think that just speaks to, you have to set goals. Like you have to set goals for yourself. If you're putting time and effort towards something, define a goal and make sure that it's big enough that it's going to
light a fire under your ass.
Yes.
Seriously.
Like, because there's races I've done where I just signed up. I'm like, whatever, I'll just do this race, But I'm like, if I train, it'll be fine. But now I had to shift that mentality. I was like, I need to be in the top 10% of every race I do. And then I was like, okay, now I'll train more.
Listen, I'm telling you, goals are great, but if you don't give a shit about them, stop fooling yourself. Like there's an aspect of that too. Like so many people talk about goal setting, and that's fantastic. Yes, you need a goal, but God bless, like you got to actually care about it. And like, just because it sounds good, like seriously, read 5 books a month sounds great. If you don't give a damn about reading 5 books a month, maybe you shouldn't do it. Yeah. Like you really need to get fired up about what you're doing. And it's a personal thing. You don't have to share it. You don't have to share with anybody.
And I want to kind of help people reframe this, because maybe reading 5 books a month isn't the thing you get excited about. Maybe what you get excited about is personal growth and development. So make the goal something that you can relate to. Like, I want to be better in leadership, or I want to be better at communication, so that you're reading to hit that goal. But the goal isn't just read 5 books a month. Like, you have to connect it to something that's important to you. I think that was you have to connect
it to purpose. It's got to have purpose. When you're in a rut, that is the time, that is an indication to me. That is a thing to me that says I'm out of alignment. I don't care. I need to understand and generate perspective and passion for what I'm doing again. So it just tells me to check in with myself and write down, literally a journal, what are my habits today? Like, what am I doing today and where am I going? And you need to redefine where you're going for yourself, because things change. Every 3 months, things change, right? Absolutely. You learn something about yourself. Do I actually love this? Do I want to take it a different route? I learned a lot about this industry. Maybe I could do it this way, whereas in the past, I thought I could do it that way. So then if my goal is to be, one of the best coaches ever, and I want to be known, you define what that means for you, the best coach. Well, then all of a sudden, look, I mean, this happened to me, 4 months ago. I wanted to train a client and get her to be absolutely at her peak physical condition for an athletic competition. Well, before that, I didn't really care to study about too much into powerlifting and some of the science behind it, but I got really deep into some of the things that Westside Barbell is doing and some other gyms to understand, how that gym makes world record breaking squatters, for example, right? And bench, for the bench press. And I'm like, all right, well, what are they doing? So then you naturally study because you just care. It has a purpose tied to it. You're going to be naturally curious.
Yeah. And I think that when you are chasing that curiosity and setting your goals, you don't do more than 3 to 5 because there's no way. There's a quote, and I think I said I was going to look it up, but I forgot. If you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. You don't have any. And it's so crucial to find. So I think a couple takeaways thus far. Find the things that you're passionate about, that light you up, that you really care about, and then get a top 3 and chase them with vigor. And if you're not inspired, figure out what's, maybe it's the goal that you've defined, or maybe it's not big enough, or maybe you just need to let it go. It's not actually that important to you.
I just think, I want to make this clear though too, Lo, this process to even land in the position that I did, at Tone House, it took like a year and a half, maybe. Honestly, when I quit my job, it took a year and a half to even land into the opportunity. And there's a lot of discomfort and challenging times along that route. Yeah. And you got to understand too, that I think a lot of people quit too soon when they're in so there's also a level of, look, I could tell you that I was in a rut when I was on this path. When I'm in Cape Town and moving to New York, I had bad days and maybe even months where you're like, am I doing the right thing? But you have to have the self-awareness to understand, is this worth me sticking it out and working through to get to the other side? I always say, instant gratification creates long-term pain.
Yes.
So if you can delay
there's
gratification,
no discipline.
There's none. So many people in relationships, for example, they have a bad day, they have a bad fight, and they quit on the relationship. And it's no, sometimes you got to work through it. You can work through healthy disagreements, right? Mm-hmm. You have a bad day at a job. You don't like your boss. You don't just quit. You don't just go, screw this, I'm out. You also have to earn your stripes, right? Yeah. People don't know this, but there was a 6-month period that I did not get hired at Tone House. I was writing them emails saying, you guys need me. I don't think you realize how passionate I am about this place. And I came in as a sales rep. Yeah. I came into work as a sales rep, not a trainer at Tone House. I just wanted to be a part of their vision. Mm-hmm. And what happened was I knew, based on who I wanted to be and the things that I wanted to be a part of, I made a promise to myself after leaving my corporate job that I would never again make a decision to go after something based on money, that I would not take a job based on money anymore, that I was only going to do it based on what my heart said felt right. Now, I will also tell you that I made mistakes along that way, that I did another venture that at the time it was with a suiting company that I love suits. And I was like, oh, I'm going to explore this. Well, I did that. And then I realized, oh, I actually just like suits. I don't know if I want to do that professionally. Right? So that's okay too. There's a refinement process. But then because I had the vision of things that I enjoyed, once Tone House came into my world, you're able to recognize it. And then you go, holy crap, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to be a part of this, because you know that's where you're supposed to be. And then you'll sacrifice, you'll fight, you'll work countless hours. You'll wake up, I wake up at freaking 3 a.m. some days to get stuff done because I love it. And in my old job, I'd be like, I'm not waking up for you at 3 a.m. You kidding me?
Not a chance. Yeah,
not a chance.
Yeah.
Not happening.
No, it's so true. I think that what you're specifically saying, one, I didn't know about the Tone House thing that you emailed them for 6 months. That's amazing. Such dedication. But also the suiting thing, you know, that I think that's important, because the point of this is to get curious and try stuff, because you're not going to know. If you're interested in something, go chase it. And you might 6 months on the road, or 3 months even, be like, okay, this is cool, but I'm not super connected to this. No big deal.
No.
And
maybe
it's a messy process. It's not the right time of your life either. Maybe it's something important, but you know, it's not, you're not ready for it. And maybe it's in 5 years, could be something that you do. It's not to say you need to, you know, put that aside forever, but chase what you're super passionate about.
I think you got to understand it's a messy process, but it's a necessary one. What I'll share with you too is, like, moving to New York, again, I didn't know I was going to be a trainer. I loved fitness so much. I didn't know that I would be in this position the way that I'm giving back. When I first moved to New York, I signed up for improv classes. I thought I was going to do comedy.
Amazing.
I was going to do acting. And I was like, I love suits. I'm going to keep modeling and do modeling for suits. Like, this was my plan, guys. Like, this is why I moved to New York. And so fitness wasn't a professional thing. And you got to understand, I went into improv comedy even. I took classes there for like 3 months. And I also learned there, like, hey, this is an interest. This is something you enjoy. It's not something I love. I didn't keep going back to it. You know, every endeavor that I tried, I ended up kind of liking, but not loving. And like, it's not a mistake to go into those things. Like, all of those things have helped me now. Like, yes. I can even look back at like how I'm a trainer now. A lot of what we do is even on camera and, you know, in front of people, you have to be quick on your feet. Like, the improv classes have helped me tremendously with what I'm doing now. I took acting classes back in Charlotte. Like, they helped me so much with being comfortable on screen. Like, it doesn't mean that you're going to, sometimes the things you do, like, you might do something for one thing, but it evolves into something totally else, something totally different. And that's where it goes back to, like, this has to be a personal journey. Like, I still don't know how my career is going to evolve. I have no idea. I have a vision for it, but I don't know how exactly it's going to take flight. Right.
Yeah. And I don't think I don't either. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the way that our world works, it's so hard to predict long-term what's going to happen, unless you have a crazy big goal like Gary Vee, and he's like, I want to buy the Jets. But that doesn't mean he's going to know, that doesn't mean he's going to dictate how his career is going to evolve. Like, his end goal is just this one really big thing, and he could do a bunch of different things to get there. So I think you said it earlier, like, set the goal. Don't be tied to the process. Just try stuff. You've got to be willing, get uncomfortable, do things that, like, you said, I cannot even imagine doing improv classes. Like,
it's fun.
I'm sure it's super fun.
It makes you uncomfortable. I would honestly recommend it to anybody. If you're a salesperson, an executive, like, get uncomfortable, because it teaches you to just trust yourself. You don't gotta be funny. It just teaches you to trust yourself.
And would you also agree that just like getting on Instagram and doing more lives and talking to the camera, that made 100%. Me so much more comfortable. That made me a way better speaker and relatable to people. So it's all of these little things that you can do. You never know what you're going to learn, number one, and then how that is going to impact you or make you better in the long term.
Look, it's a muscle. Like, this is another reason why I love training. You do things that you cannot do, and then you eventually can do them. So when I met with you and Wes told me, and I was so terrified. He was like, all right, we're going to have to do, if you're going to do this stuff, like modeling and acting, you're going to have, you're going to have to get in front of the phone. Wes told me, pick up my freaking phone and go to that table. We were at a restaurant. He's like, go to that table and just film on your story, ask them a bunch of questions. Just go right now. I was terrified. I was shaking in my boots, but like, you have to do it though. Like, that's the key. Look, the advice that we're talking about has all been said before. The difference is that you have to take the action. You have to feel the discomfort. Like, I have been terrified. I literally have been terrified. I have spent, like, to be vulnerable with you guys, I have questioned my decisions. I'm like, should I have done this? Should I just stay in the safe job? I have spent nights at home by myself where I've like cried and I've been like, this isn't working. Like, I shouldn't do this. But then always something, like, I don't know if you're a spiritual person like I am, like I believe that there's something guiding you if you listen to it. And I have felt like I'm on a guided path. Like things have happened where I've wanted to quit, and then life presented something where I was like, okay, I'm supposed to stay true to course. And then if you just feel like, man, if I quit, you're going to have these regrets. Yeah. And like the key to everything is, I think life's whole purpose is just getting alignment with things that light you up. I don't care what, it does not matter what the hell it is. It does not. Yeah. Like fame, money, and recognition mean garbage. I think they mean nothing if they're not coming from a place of, this is genuinely what I love to do and where I'm supposed to be, and how you can give back to people. That's all that it is. Yeah. I'm good at this. I love this. So how can I share it with you? Right? You have to figure that out. And there is a period of exploration. I think people have to embrace that period of uncertainty where like I did not have a job and I did not have a paycheck coming in that was guaranteed, but I felt like there was a bigger purpose to explore and let go so that you could allow something else to come into your life. Like if I held on to that corporate job, I could not, none of this would have happened, because you have no space in your life to allow these other things to enter,
to come in. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's what I think getting out of the rut is, being willing to be uncomfortable. And something that you brought up when, there are those tough times. And I think there was a question about it, so I want to touch on this, but the awareness of when you work through something versus when it's time to leave. Oh, and it's the same. And a workout I did this week, I heard it in a workout and I was like, I have to add this in. It was like, there is a difference between resistance and injury. And you have to know your body, know yourself. Yep. And sometimes we're going to get it wrong, and that's okay. But being able to tune into, what is the right decision here? Do I need to push through, or is this time to walk away? And that's kind of the awareness we have. Like, is this a trend, or is this one moment? Yes, if this is just like kind of like a bad week or something versus a bad 3 months or a bad 6 months or a bad year, that's really different. So that's how I would say to have that awareness. I don't know if you would add anything different to help people with that differentiation.
I write a lot. There's an evolution in your life that you just have to learn how you talk to yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the gym in the first place. Before I was doing this professionally, like when I was in my sales job, I would go to the gym and it was therapy for me. And working through a certain workout that was challenging, I started to learn how I would speak to myself when I wanted to quit. And I just started to translate, like, all right, well, when I hit these difficult moments of things that I find boring, repetitive, or when I'm tired and don't think that I can do something, when do I give up on myself? And training was the vessel for me to learn what that self-talk was, to know these things are worth to work through, and that I also have the ability to push through these things that are uncomfortable, right? I see it every day. I think, look, to me, you train in the gym. If I train with you, I will understand the character that you have with yourself within the first 20 minutes of me working with you, within the first 10. I see so many people quit on themselves so fast. And like, they think it's just an exercise. You think it's just a workout. I'm like, man, I know so much about your internal dialogue. Like, there's a reason why people in the training community respect one another so much, is because the community understands that if you're able to push through, like the Tone House community, if you're able to push through this workout, man, there must be something about you that's mentally tough, man. Yes. There must be something, like life throws some shit at you. Like, good luck with the stuff because you're going to beat that. Like, there's just a mental toughness coordinated with it. Now, the stuff that you give, like there's obviously a time when you have to have a self-awareness to walk away from something versus like, this is worth the squeeze. That's just a check-in process that I will literally journal with myself and say, am I excited about this? And after it's that simple to me. If I'm just not excited about it, then just don't apologize for it. You're just not. Move on. Next thing.
It is okay. And it doesn't have to be, You don't have to be mad at yourself. Again,
Nope.
the goal is to get as many experiences as possible so that you can make a better decision of how you want to move forward and what you want to invest your time in. That's how I operate. I think that's how you operate. And the journaling and the reflection is so key for that. So key. And people on IG, if you guys have questions, we're going to transition to some question time because I know we want to be done in time for the Jordan documentary. There's one question here. What are some helpful tips or practices to underscore now more than ever in a pandemic, especially those that are unemployed or feeling a financial strain? I would say you have to give yourself structure and set goals. I've talked to a lot of people friends right now who are out of work. And I'm like, do you have a schedule for yourself? And they're like, no, I just kind of like am doing things. And I'm like, make a schedule. I don't even care if it's like breakfast, 9 to 10, you're going to make yourself this gourmet breakfast every day. And then you're going to go into, take your dogs for a walk. And then you're going to allow yourself 1 hour of Netflix. And then you're going to read for an hour. And then you're going to have lunch, whatever. I would say create a structure and chase something that's interesting to you. Like try something new. I think we've said that 28 times tonight.
Lo, I don't mean to contradict you, but I'll be honest. I have actually the opposite approach.
Really?
During this time, I do. And it's very similar to, I've been giving this advice to certain people. I don't think it translates for everybody. I think your advice is good advice. Like the structure is important. I just know myself that I have more of an artistic mind. Like I have more of a creative mind. My brother, for example, is much more logical. He's kind of more of a problem solver. Like he's a logic kind of guy. So he's a structured kind of person. I need no structure to generate creativity. So I think some of it has to depend on you. Like when I'm in this space, like when I was in South Africa, it's the same thing. Like an artist would tell you, like eliminate distractions. I'm going to go to sleep when I want to sleep. I'm going to wake up when I want to wake up, and I'm not going to respond to phone calls, texts. I'm only going to insert info that I'm curious about learning on or hearing. And to me, I'll go exercise and go for a run. And over a period of a few days, weeks even, if I am thinking to myself about a problem of what do I want to do? What's the job I want? I just got unemployed. How am I going to make money? Like eventually these creative ideas come to me because of the lack of structure.
I think to your point though, because I don't think you're contradicting actually. I think different solutions are right for different people. We talked about this. That's why no diet is good for one person. No workout is good for one person. And it also depends on the context, but what you said for everyone, I'm going to contradict myself in this blanket statement, but removing distractions is so key. And the people that I was talking to were like on their phones all day. And so they weren't allowing space for other things to come in and they weren't being present. So I think eliminating those distractions, let yourself be with your thoughts and be bored.
That's huge.
But not like just scrolling on your phone or watching a bunch of Netflix or whatever. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're binge watching 8 hours of Netflix every day. And I'm like, what? Like, no.
That's a lot. I also I'm all about all things. Like do what makes you happy.
There's time. There's a time and a place.
Time and a place. I've done it too. But look, like you said, this goes back to if you're scrolling on your phone like nonstop, like I do it too. We're all human beings. Let's not act like we're perfect. Like I do these things too. It's freaking silly, right? But do you catch yourself? And then two, we just talked about like embrace the discomfort, man.
Yeah.
Like embrace it more than most do. Like that is just, if there is one thing that I would say that I am good at, like I do not consider myself an expert in many things, but I will tell you straight up that I will tell you more than anyone, I embrace discomfort, I think better than most. Like I will sit in that shit because I know that there's something beautiful on the other side. That's why I train so hard. I can give you the same workout and I will outwork you because I just want it more. And I know that there's that discomfort that I put myself through gets me a bigger reward.
Yep.
I have a relationship with it. That's probably one of my superpowers but that is the one thing, like don't scroll, you scrolling through your phone is stopping the thinking process of you solving the problem. It's what we said before. It's the, instead of sitting in your discomfort of, God, I really am actually not happy with my situation, which is okay to recognize. You instead go, I don't like this, and I'm scrolling on my phone. And then you forget that you're in that situation rather than sit in it and then create a plan. Eventually, the next day, if you sit with that thought and go for a run, you're going to be like, all right, here's what I'm going to do to get out of it. You got to make the changes now.
I totally agree. I think, and the reason that you've now befriended discomfort is because you know there's growth in it.
Yeah.
And I've been able to do that too, but you have to take that first risk of, I'm willing to step into this, knowing it's going to be uncomfortable, and I don't know what's going to happen, right? But it's those like first couple times. And I remember when I was living in Denver and there was stuff I wanted to do, but I didn't know anyone. And I was like, well, this is going to be awkward. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it anyway. It's going to be awkward.
It is what it is.
And then just by admitting it was going to be awkward or uncomfortable, I was like, oh, that just kind of like took the pressure off me.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just going to go. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do what I want. There's another question. Do you have any advice for getting over a physical injury that doesn't have a definite recovery time? I think it has really affected my mental well-being, especially because of the pandemic, limiting contact with actual health professionals.
That's honestly a tough one. Well, Lo knows I've been coming out. I can kind of relate to this empathetically right now. I had a rib injury recently that took me out of training for about 4 weeks. So I have been going through that too. I think, look, the first couple of days I allowed myself to be a little bit upset about it. You're like, all right, this really sucks. And it does, because you can't do what you do. I had to think about it just like you're probably sitting there at home being like, I can't do the things that I maybe had planned. But there's opportunity in it too. And I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't suck in the beginning. But then I also looked at it like, all right, how can I use the time? So if I can't do these things, then it also means that I can do other things. So because I couldn't train as much, well, that also opens, a few hours in my day, honestly. So I did start reading some books that I wasn't going to get to before. And I even started playing guitar, and I hadn't played guitar in years.
I love it.
And it allowed me to work. I have a podcast that allowed me to work more focused on the podcast to build that. So there's probably, if you're sitting in that space right now and you can't do maybe the physical things you want to do, there's always something that you could do that you probably didn't have time for, that you didn't think about, that you could do during this time because you have no choice but to maybe be a little bit more still.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, focus on what I want to pick up out of what you said. And I said this to someone earlier today, focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. And even if you can just do micro movements or like little training things, like call your, I don't know what the injury is, obviously, but if you can call your trainer and just say, hey, can you give me a couple little tiny things to work on? And do what you can. And then maybe it's just shifting away from physical stuff and putting your time into other things.
Look, from a training side, like your goal just changes. Like rehab is now part of your goal. So like if you're an athlete, look, injury happens. Like I'm going to get injured again. Like I hope it's not serious, right? But like we all have small things. So just think about it. LeBron James gets injured, right? Small things happen. It's not like he's feeling 100% every day. Just think of yourself as an athlete. Now I have rehab as my training plan. So how can I do things daily that might not be high activity, but are things that are going to make my body feel good so I can come back stronger. Like all that I said to myself was after this rib thing for me ended, I was like, I am promising myself I will come back stronger than before. I will get in better shape than I ever have been before. Like prepare yourself mentally for the comeback. Like you can get excited about that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like or even something that you said to me, and we're gonna wrap this up because I know the last dance is starting soon. I just got the alert. But something you said to me was, I'm gonna take this time to rest because I wake up at 3 a.m. in these crazy times. So I'm gonna let my body just recover now and be okay with that. I also want to point out something Monica said. If I didn't experience my rut, I wouldn't have tried something different to get out of my rutted comfort zone, which I love. I think
Truth.
that's so important and impactful. So takeaways, I think, do something that makes you uncomfortable this week. I don't care what it is. Just do one thing that makes you uncomfortable. I think start maybe a journaling practice. If you're in a rut, think about, is this something long-term versus momentary? And set some big goals for yourself. Like, those are just a couple things that I would say. I don't know if you have any. I like to give people action items to take away.
Yeah, I know, which I love, because action's everything. Like, talking about this stuff theoretically is great, but you have got to take a change on this stuff. Reading a book is awesome, but can you take an action based on what you learned from the book, right?
Right.
So I am a big fan of design, literally design your life. This is create your North Star.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can do it for you. The best advice I've ever received was write down who you want to become, and then you can create the habits and strategies to obtain that stuff. Like, don't go backwards. Don't create strategies and habits, because a quote that I love is, don't build a ladder against the wrong wall.
Oh, yes.
If you're just building habits to build habits, well, then you're going to get somewhere that you didn't want to freaking be.
Yes.
So I'd rather know where I want to go, and then me building the ladder will be a much more fun process because I know where I'm going, right?
Absolutely.
And look, train. Like, I love training because I love the process. Find something that you love every day. Like, I told Lo, I am nowhere near. Like, I feel like I'm successful only because I love what I do every day. That's the only reason. I don't judge things monetarily or any other way. Like, I just love the process of what I'm doing and who I'm becoming. And like, when you're sitting in that space, just figure that out. Explore, let yourself fail, taste things, refine. It takes years. It's part of a lifelong journey, but God blesses it worth it. Otherwise, I think you wake up feeling like a fraud. So
you do. And I think that is, by the way, the definition of success. That if that is not your definition of success, that you wake up feeling fulfilled and loving what you're doing, I think perhaps I would suggest a recalibration on that. If you want to chase the money, go for it. But I think it's going to leave you. Unhappy.
Yeah.
But we're so thankful for everyone that joined. We are going to wrap up. Thank you guys. We appreciate you. Any feedback, questions, feel free to send to us afterwards. Kathleen, love you too. Dust Bell, appreciate you for joining. Charlie D. Bean as well. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you, Joe. I'm so grateful for you.